Do you also put so much emphasis and focus on finding new clients, as most of us do? Are you at a point or feeling like you're getting to a point of, I cannot anymore? The harder you work, the less you achieve. Do you feel like that? Then today's episode will bring relief, new ideas, and possibly a total transformation of your business. And we're back with another episode here on PROpulsion Live. Good morning. I hope you're doing well. And I'm certainly doing better. This was a week from hell. But nonetheless, Mr. COVID or Mrs. COVID or Team COVID visited me again. So, but yeah, up and about, and thankful to be up and about, to be honest. But good morning. I hope you're all doing well. I see there's quite a few of you already saying hi in the comments. Thank you so much. Whether you're over on YouTube, LinkedIn, or Facebook, please say hi. We always appreciate it, and we can give you a shout out in the same time. So what are we doing today? Well, today I've got a phenomenal guest, Gustav Neethling, and Gustav are doing some very interesting things in their business. They've been building their business over several years. He's got quite an interesting story and journey. And also what always gets me is if I see people using technology, I get extremely excited, specifically if it's a sort of innovative ways. And one of the things that Gustav and his team are doing is that they have developed their own bespoke software as well that they use in their business. So keen to talk to you about that. Don't know how much he will reveal around that, but we are definitely going to talk about that. But also then, you know, what is the trends that he's seeing? What are the things that is emerging? Where's the industry and the profession going? And sort of in his view, and then, you know, what is the role of technology? And then we'll even get into some crypto stuff, because they are really embracing this whole new crypto world and educating themselves, which is so important. So looking forward to that. But that is not the only thing that we are going to be talking about today. We are also talking about, so we've got Nikki McDonald back fresh from holiday. So she's going to bring all the energy and the fire this morning in the FBI Current Affairs segment. We have Norma finishing off her series on relationships. And then we have Louis van der Merwe doing Beyond Financial Planning. And then I've got some quick announcements, and then I'll have a chat to Gustav, and really looking forward to that. All right, so as ouder gewoonte, let me just quickly say hi to some people. Good morning, Ben Kleinans. Awesome to see you. Look at that smile. Good morning. Albert Fritz, good morning. Nice to see you. Kobus Klein, good morning. Welcome back. Barry van Niekerk, goeiemôre, goeiemôre. Lekker daar in Pretoria. I almost said hi to PROpulsion. No, we won't do that. Tracy, good morning. Nice to see you. Razan, good morning. We have Harry Nell, good morning. Nice to see you. And Mel Jacoby, good morning. All right, let's get into today's show and head on over to the FBI and hear what the latest is in the financial planning profession.
Good morning, Francois, and good morning to everyone on this first day of the second quarter of 2022. Cannot believe we're here already. So let's start with a good news story on the petrol price increases. If you haven't seen that yet, the general fuel levy will be cut by R1.50 per litre from Wednesday next week until the 31st of May 2022, the finance minister announced on Thursday. This will reduce the levy for petrol from R3.85 per litre to R2.35 per litre, and on diesel from R3.70 per litre to R2.20 per litre. Around 6 billion of the state's strategic oil reserves will be sold to fund this tax hit, which means it won't impact government debt. So the intention of the temporary reduction of the general fuel levy is to support the phasing and the fuel price increases that we are expecting in the short term. And this will go some way in assisting South Africans to adjust to the new reality, Godongwana said in Parliament on Thursday. So that's a bit of good news for every one of us. And then the second story is not such good news. Statistics SA released their quarterly labor force survey this week. And the grim statistics of unemployment in South Africa are not a secret, nor is the equally grim fact that the figures keep getting worse year after year. So the survey reiterates this reality with figures that shows that there are more than 7.9 million unemployed persons in South Africa, despite their best efforts to find employment. It gets even worse. Statistics SA notes in its report of the survey conducted during the last quarter of 2021 that a lot of young people are not only discouraged with the labour market, they have even given up on learning the necessary skills to find jobs. The data supplied as additional information to the report shows that the working age population in South Africa is growing rapidly. Defined as persons between the age of 15 and 65, the working age population has increased from 31.5 million in 2008 to 39.9 million at the end of 2021. So in short, there are 8.5 million more potential workers in South Africa than in 2008. Now, the increase in the number of available jobs, together with a steady increase in the working age population and the number of people seeking employment, results in an unbelievable and very worrisome unemployment rate. The current unemployment rate of 35.3% can be interpreted in different ways. One is to point out that 35 out of 100 people eager to work cannot find work. And another is to say that 1 out of every 3 adults in South Africa is staring at a bare food cupboard and doesn't know what to do about it. But what can we do about it? And then we move on to the third item that I want to discuss this morning is the Inseta discretionary grants. Now, for every one of us who pay our Inseta levies or the companies, Inseta has published a notice that their discretionary grant window for applications has been extended until the 13th of April. The following can be applied for. Inter alia, learnerships for workers and unemployed youth, bursaries for workers, skills programs for unemployed youth, and also special and strategic projects aligned to national skills priorities and insurance sector demands. And I would encourage everyone to try and put some funding and some projects together to try and assist our younger next generation financial planners coming into the industry. So for more information on this, you can find it at www.inseta.org.za/adverts. And then today is the 1st of April, and therefore April Fool's Day. So April Fool's pranks are an old tradition in American and European cultures, but no one knows the exact origins of the holiday. One of the most popular theories has to do with changing calendars in the 1500s. According to this explanation, the new year had been traditionally celebrated at the start of spring. And then France changed to the Roman calendar. The new year fell in January. Those who were slow to adapt the change, often people who lived in the countryside, became known as April Fools, according to the story, and that's where it comes from. Now, in 1957, the BBC reported that Swiss farmers were experiencing a record spaghetti crop and showed footage of people harvesting noodles from trees that I thought was quite fun. And there was at least one prank product which parents wished was real: Lego smart bricks, toy building block pieces that could automatically move out of the way when a person approaches. And I would have loved that when my sons were smaller. Have a wonderful weekend, Francois, and I hope you feel a lot better soon.
Thank you very much, Nikki. Hope to see you back soon. And thank you for the well wishes. Really appreciate it. And with that, over to Norma. Norma's going to finish off her series, her 4-part series on relationships. And today she's talking about needs and wants in relationships. Interesting topic ahead. So Norma.
Good morning, and this is the last part of relationships. So I want to focus on connections today. So we as humans, we love connection. And if we can see and look at our past, we always want to belong in some or other group. So it's really in our DNA. We're tribal species. We want to be included. And I think that is also a reason why we find it so terrible if we are rejected or we're isolated, where we feel we are excluded or not accepted in a group. So we seek this connection, but we want to sort of see what we can get from these connections. So really the definition of connection is really that we just feel this emotion of connection with another person. So it's really what we feel when we think about other people. So in relationships, we feel this connection, and we really feel it because of the way that we're thinking. So we sometimes think, and we make the mistake, that other people can cause us to feel a certain way. And we also think that we can feel what someone else feels towards us. But that is never the case, because we can only feel connection by the way that we think. So if someone says to me, Norma, I love you, it is not because I'm so lovable. It's because I'm that good. It's because this person thinks I am lovable and thinks I'm so amazing. The same happens if someone says to me, Norma, you really hurt me, is I can't feel that person's hurt. I could only think, oh, I'm such a horrible person, and now I feel that hurt. So it's wonderful news that we know now that our thinking creates this connection. And if we don't have enough connections in our life, then we know where the problem is, and we can always go and change it. So now that we know our thinking creates this connection, it's also important to go and to see what our pattern of thinking is, and also what our programming is. So take, for instance, lovability. So as I've just alluded to it. So if I say someone is lovable, it doesn't really have anything to do with that person. It is about me finding things in that person that I love. So if I think my child is so lovable, it's because I think my child is amazing. I have the ability, the capacity, and also I make the decision to love my child. We learn this lovability very early on in our childhood. So we see from other people what they're doing, our parents, caregivers. And if we had a good example, or we had a great love teacher, then it would be easy for us to love and find connections and just connect and feel secure. But if we didn't have those great teachers, then obviously it's going to be a bit more difficult for us to love. We might feel anxiety more than the love. So another one is unconditional love. So again, if we go back and we see how we grew up, where we learned and what we were programmed, is that if it was demonstrated to us that love is conditional, then it would be hard for us to love unconditionally. So then we would most probably want people to change for us to love them more. So, yeah, like I said, with unconditional love, we find a limited way of loving people then. So the last part is the relationship circle. So this is an interesting one, and was really a game changer for me. So we can learn how to create this relationship circle so that it really satisfy all of our needs. Because sometimes we also make the mistake that we go to our partner or spouse and we want them to be all of these things for us. So if I have this list long of relationship wants and needs, then I don't have to rely on my partner to give me all of that. So if I, for instance, want to go cycling early on a Saturday morning and my husband doesn't want to do that, then I can let him go and do whatever he wants to do, and I can go and find a person that has the same want as me. So somewhere in my town, there's going to be a person that wants to go out early on a Saturday morning and go and cycle, and then because I want it, this person wants it, we are a match. So then we can go out and enjoy ourselves. And then, for instance, if my partner has this want or need in our relationship that he wants us to go have dinner on a regular basis and go to movies, if that is something he wants and something I want, so that is a match, and then we can go out and do those things together. So just to close off then, so lovability is all about me. If I think someone is lovable, it is not because that person is so amazing and so great. It's because I have the capacity, the ability, and I'm choosing to love. Unconditional love is always the best option to choose. And then we can expand our relationship circle so all of our wants and needs are met. Okay, so that's me for today. Thank you for listening. See you again next week.
Thank you, Norma. And with that, we get to the next segment, which is going to be Louis van der Merwe. And Louis talks to us today around beyond financial planning, which the whole idea behind this segment is to say, well, you know what, yeah, there's the technical part of financial planning, but what about all the other things that are as valuable or even more valuable in this relationship with the client? And today, as far as I can gather, this is going to be about really extracting maximum value from client meetings and engaging with clients and really getting a deeper understanding and some things that we can focus on. So with that, over to Louis.
How often do we get contacted by a client with a specific requirement? Help me to pay less tax. Help me to invest in the best share or unit trust. These are symptoms of what might be going on deeper, and spending time asking open-ended questions often pays off in spades. Be wary of going too deep too soon. Asking questions like, what is your earliest memory of money? Or how was money growing up? Works well once you've established some trust. In a recent article by Megan Lurtz on the kitsis.com blog, she shared a recipe for structuring introduction meetings. She argues that we start with laying out the structure of the meeting, then moving to understand the client's problems and goals, which should be the bulk of the meeting, and then discussing how we could solve the problems by working together, leaving room for any questions, and finally, the next steps. In this process, it is defining the origin of the symptoms that I think takes real skill, similar to a GP conducting tests to see what is causing the ailments. And now we do this by allowing a client to paint a picture of their lives without any restrictions, financial or other resources. What would life look like if money was not a problem? What would you do? Where would you spend your time? They get to dream again, and hopefully this includes their current spouse, and you get to see what is really important to them. The symptoms are usually what they think are holding them back from living this dream. By working with your financial planner, you can now move closer to this dream in a shorter time span. Our role is not to be magicians or find loopholes. It's to nudge clients to taking incrementally better decisions and holding their hands while they do it. Helping someone going through a major life transition, like scaling down their property, moving into a new phase of life, can be extremely stressful. And as a certified financial transitionist, we often use the concept of a decision-free zone. Think of this as something where we actively help a client to take a break from the decisions they make, sorting the decisions into now, soon, and later columns. Very similar to the Trello-style Kanban boards. And what this does is that it helps the client to focus on items that are both important and time-sensitive, while at the same time knowing that we'll tackle the soon and later items in the future. I hope that this sparks some ideas for your next client meeting.
Alrighty, there we go. So thank you very much, Louis, for that. Some interesting thoughts and really impactful. So yeah, let's look at some announcements and just some of the things that I need to sort of share with you before we get into our conversation with Gustav, which I can't wait for anymore. So first thing is just the state of digital. Remember, Razan spoke about this a while back. And we went through some of the stats that was released, and we said, well, this is so interesting. We really want to do a deep dive into this, and we're going to do that in PROpulsion Pro or on PROpulsion Pro. So that will only be for members, but that's going to happen in May. So really excited for that. So that's been confirmed. We will announce it there. Then the second thing would just be the GFPC, so Global Financial Planning Conference. That's happening the 17th and 18th of May. And tickets are really now starting to sell. I was really like, maybe I must go more on leave, but things are really starting to pick up steam. And thank you very much. Tickets are only 290 Rand per ticket. So please, you're more than welcome to join us for this. It's a great investment. It's 2 days of absolute something that you haven't experienced before. It's not the usual suspects on the virtual stage. 10-minute talks, impactful, really amazing. I was looking at last year's stuff again this last week, and really it's just amazing how people got out of the Speaker Influencer program and was able to deliver such impactful conversations and messages and all of that. So please join us for that, the 17th and 18th. And also remember, included in this for the 290 Rand, it includes VAT, number one. Secondly, it includes a whole day of CPD as well, where you can earn 18 CPD points. You will have access to the content afterwards, so you can choose whenever you want to do this. So for the next year, you will have access and you can do it whenever you want. So 7 of those hours will be live. So it's a day of CPD where we actually present live. And then the other 11 points will all be pre-recorded. So you'll have access on that through our system. All right. So that's the one thing. Then last announcement, LinkedIn Challenge is back for Propulsion Pro members. So we are running this in April. So really excited to do that. So that'll be part one, where we really look at crafting your profile so that it's focused on what it's supposed to be doing. And that is really selling and marketing you and your services, and not advertising your CV. But we get into a lot of detail. And by the end of the 10 days, you would have redone your entire LinkedIn profile. If you're not on LinkedIn, you will now be on LinkedIn. So it was very successful last year. We had some great feedback. So that's coming back in April as well for Propulsion Pro members. So if you're not a member yet, you're welcome to go check it out at propulsion.co.za/pro. Alrighty, so just like that, we get to our featured segment, and excited to introduce Gustav Neethling to you on the other side of this. Gustav, a warm welcome to Propulsion Live.
Thank you, Francois. Good morning to you.
Fantastic. Is the sun up already there down in Cape Town? Hopefully, because it's coming up later and later here in Joburg. So, is the sun out?
Not yet, but definitely feeling the change of seasons. It's quite chilly and windy already, and it's definitely we're moving into autumn. That's for sure.
Yeah, and I think the most beautiful autumns happens down in Cape Town. I was seeing that the change in the leaves colors when we were there last week. It's just it's another look and feel. Like it's a different brown and a different orange. It feels to be like, maybe it's because the air is so clear there. But anyway, let's not get into the weather. It sounds like I'm chatting to my father-in-law. So he always loves to talk to me about the weather. But yeah, warm welcome, Gustav. Really excited to talk to you, and thank you for making the time. So I want to get into, because there's quite a few things that you're actively doing in your business. You're very purposeful in the way that you're building your business, the way that you employ technology into your business. Really excited to unpack all of this, as well as why you decided to also look at crypto. And we'll get into that, so people don't have to worry and think like this is about making money with crypto. I think it's something completely different, gathering from what it is on your website and some conversations. So really excited to get into that. So those are the 3 main things we're going to talk about. But Gustav, I mean, there's nobody better to sort of just give a brief background on who you are and what you do on a daily basis than yourself. So, who's Gustav, and what do you spend most of your time on at the moment?
Yeah, no, thank you, Francois. So, a very brief history of myself. Went to Stellenbosch University, studied initially BCom computer science. So that's why I've got such a big love and passion for programming and computers and technology. But very early on realized that I don't want to spend the rest of my life just coding. So I then pivoted into the financial analysis aspect thereof. Completed my degree in BCom financial analysis, and also the honors degree in financial analysis. Back then it was just called BCom investments. That's where my love for investments kind of started. Then moved into a tire distribution force, where I spent some 7 years kind of cutting my teeth a bit. Very early on also in my career there, I grew a habit, or a love at least, for practice management. So I was constantly curious and asking myself questions. So we've always been doing something a certain way, a process, but why aren't we doing it this way or that way? It's kind of built on that Japanese kind of culture of Kaizen, where you're just continually trying to improve. And that's where, again, technology plays such a very important part, because with technology, there's rapid enhancements and improvements that you can make to your process. Subsequently, after spending some time in the tire distribution force, I then went into the independent space, where I started and founded the Financial Emporium, where we focus on holistic financial planning. The business is 10 years old, I'm happy to say, from next month. And we're growing in leaps and bounds. And this combination of all kind of my learnings that I've built up, so strong kind of computer and technology kind of focus, overlapping that with a very much a growth mindset, very systemized, embracing technology, but at the same time looking at holistic financial planning and obviously understanding on a very deep level in terms of what the client's needs and the requirements are. And if you bring that all together, you have this beautiful symphony. And although we're far from perfect, I honestly and firmly believe that we're definitely on the right road. There's still a lot of work to that we need to do, but it's I love what I do. I don't have a job. It's a passion, and we very much in an evolving and a changing landscape. But it's a hell of exciting. And as I said, we'll leave the crypto space for right at the end. But the things are moving at a rapid speed. And again, I think the big topic that I'm trying to push out to financial advisors: you need to be comfortable being uncomfortable. The world and the landscape is shifting and moving, and you need to be very nimble and be able to adjust. So yeah, that's a kind of brief background of myself.
Yeah, and it's so important. I want to stand still just for a second, if I may. You started off in the tide space, so you started off with a product provider when you joined the profession, and you were there for 7 years, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm keen to sort of know, what was the main takeaway from that 7 years? What was the value that you extracted from those 7 years, and that you actually used as as a way to build your practice today? So to build financial the Financial Emporium. So what was the main thing there that sort of got you, and often they could be like, this is the way I want to do it, or this is the way I don't want to do it, or like, where was what was the biggest takeaway from that journey?
Yeah, so the biggest takeaway was firstly, with not being too disrespectful to the big corporates, but I learned a lot what not to do. Unfortunately, South Africa and the financial services sector is still dominated by the big corporates that are the way that they've been operating for the last 50, sometimes even 100 years is very much ingrained in the business already. So I saw a lot of opportunities in terms of where the improvements are. So yeah, one of the biggest takeaways was what not to do. But obviously to their benefit, in terms of a deep understanding in terms of how the products work, was probably the biggest takeaway. So during that time there, I got a very deep understanding in terms of how the nuts and bolts of the products work, but the execution and the processes in terms of how to get to the client's kind of end result, that was a lot of where the kind of opportunities came to the fore.
And today, Gustav, I mean, if you think about what, if somebody is new and they're considering joining the profession, and, what would be your advice today, looking back, because things have evolved? And just to sort of add on to your point, I think it doesn't matter really which corporate you're in. It doesn't have to be just in financial services. It can be anywhere in the economy. Often I think corporates are the exact sort of motivation that people needed in order to go and start their own thing. Because they learn about, like, I don't want to do it like this, or I don't like that. And I guess there's a reason why things work for the corporates, because it's been tested over time. And then sometimes we believe that things can be done a little bit differently, that might be a little bit better, it might not be. But if somebody was to start off today, what would be your advice? Where should they look to get into the profession?
Yeah, it's a difficult question. So unfortunately, and I think Nikki mentioned right in the beginning, the INSETA kind of the grants, according to my knowledge, there's not a lot of independent practices that take on kind of new recruits on a regular basis. So it's kind of difficult to kind of cut your teeth with the independent practice. Hence why, if you're coming into the industry, probably going to a corporate is a better starting point. So again, as I said, I honestly look back fondly to my years in the corporate / tire distribution environment. I think you really learn a lot. And as I said, it's maybe a good kind of environment to to get to network, to get to meet certain people, to build up your knowledge base. And then once you get to a certain critical point, to then make that shift and move. I would be hesitant to make a recommendation to anybody to say, you know what, start independent and just rock and roll. It's going to be a long, bumpy road. It's going to be painful. Not that you won't be able to succeed, but I think your learning curve in a corporate environment that's much more structured, policies, procedures, those things already kind of well ingrained and in place is a much better starting point, and then to pivot into something else if you see a different opportunity or a new opportunity that maybe is more aligned to your passions or needs or goals.
And coming with this background of investments, because you studied that and you sort of fell in love with that, was that did that make you focus on building a investment book, on building investment clients into your business? Was that the main focus from the beginning, or did you also, like everybody else, start off with risk and then, as time went on, you migrated, or what was that journey like for you?
Yeah, it's a funny story. So obviously, it's I think most people, even if you ask clients, if you had a braai with friends and they ask you what you do and you say you sell insurance, everybody takes a step back, like, oh goodness, let's run for the hills. While if you stand at the braai and you say, no, you give investment advice, immediately they lean in and they say, oh, what's happening here? What do you think about this or that? So there's this stigma that insurance is bad or messy or not nice or dirty or grimy, or they just do it for the commission or whatever. And investments is like, oh, it's like almost a higher calling. Although we all know that they're very much tied at the hip. So it's not a true reflection between the two. In the tied kind of distribution environment space, I think, to be brutally honest, the profit margins on the risk side or the insurance side is just more juicy than the investment side. So initially, everybody kind of leans more towards the risk and insurance side. I still believe that you need to be very competent in both. When it comes to things like estate planning, tax planning, it's very important. You need to have a strong understanding of both concepts. And it's not a kind of either or kind of scenario. I think holistic financial planning is definitely the way to go. The world is complex enough, and you can't just, although there is maybe a space for very specialization, I think it's important that you have a very good grasp of both kind of areas.
Because they are intertwined, right? So I think too often I've seen people focusing so much on investments that they neglect the estate planning portion of it. And those two are intricately, as you said, joined at the hip. And that's important. But if you look at Financial Emporium today, how long have you been going now?
Yeah, it's 10 years. So we're going to have a big Joel next month.
Awesome. Yes. Well, congratulations. So if you look at that 10-year journey, when you started off and where you are at the moment, what has been some of the most significant changes you've made that helped you scale the business and helped you grow the business to this point?
Yeah. So again, probably the single biggest one for me was that 10 years ago when I initially started the business, we still used, as I said, at that stage, the Spotlight kind of CRM system. Later that year, when my other kind of director and partner joined, they were using a different CRM system at work. And my third partner that also joined at a later stage kind of rocked up there with boxes and boxes of files. And we sat around the table and said, guys, we're supposed to work together. I was to drive kind of investment side, the other partners, the long-term and then short-term insurance side. And how are we supposed to work together? And at that stage, I did a kind of a proper due diligence in terms of what options with regards to technology are available in the environment. And at that stage, nothing really kind of ticked all the boxes that I wanted. So I got the buy-in and the blessing from my partners to build our own internal system. So we've developed Babylon. It's called Babylon, and we've been developing it for the last kind of 10 years. It's a proprietary system. It's not available for anybody else. And because it's our own system, I literally on a weekly/monthly basis make small enhancements and adjustments to the software. And it's a framework, it's a foundation on which Financial Emporium provides a hell of a good springboard for us to rapidly scale going forward. So if I double, triple, 10x the team I could easily do that. So it was a blessing in disguise. Looking back, the idea was never to kind of to build out the business to such a big scale 10 years ago. But now we're at a stage that we're kind of very much at a tipping point, and it's a very exciting time for us because, as I said, I think technology is such an important part in running a business that you need to kind of embrace it and bring it together. So by far the biggest kind of, it was honestly a bit of a fluke, was starting and building our own software instead of trying to take somebody else's software and try and fit it into our existing system. But it provides a lot of kind of learnings along the way. So that's probably been the biggest kind of aha moment. And the other one was just in terms of the team, so the people that you let into the business. So financial services and financial planning is still very much a kind of a people's business, people industry. So the right fit of the people that you bring into the business is of critical importance. So we only want A players on the team. We've dabbled in the B and the C league, and it never ends well. So yeah.
Yeah, no, you can't go to the World Cup with with your second line, right? So, Gustav, just quickly, I'm very interested to sort of, if you don't mind sharing this, but what were some of the things that were missing from the commercially available systems? What were the things that you felt like, because I'm a big proponent and a big, I don't know what the right word is, but I absolutely believe in that any system that you implement or any technology that you implement must fit your business. You mustn't go and change your business to fit the system, because that's looking for trouble. But for me, I mean, listening to you, like you built this bespoke system because there were gaps in the other systems. And what were those gaps?
So probably the biggest thing that kind of stood out for me at that stage is that we obviously had a very strong focus on investments, long-term insurance, short-term insurance, and medical or healthcare. So all the four traditional big kind of product sets. And at that stage, there wasn't one software solution that kind of catered for all all four. There was a lot of kind of software solutions that were very much investment focused. On the long-term insurance, it was minimal. Short-term was hardly anything, and the same in terms of the healthcare. So because we had this big focus on holistic financial planning, we effectively wanted to be the center for the client's kind of total financial portfolio, and have the financial planners play the role of more kind of a relationship manager. Access to information and data across all the product sets was key. So at that stage, that was the biggest thing that was lacking. There was maybe solutions that focus specifically on one or maybe two of the subsets, but not all of them. And hence why we decided to kind of just build something from the ground up.
Yeah, no, it makes so much sense. And that's the big thing, right? So if you have multiple facets in your business, like how do you bring all of it together? Because often you do like these different kind of product lines or different lines of advice with the same client. Mm-hmm. And how do you get this holistic view? And I think even the corporates are trying to get that one view of customer, which they absolutely are not successful in at this stage, as far as I know. So my other question then around having your bespoke software is, is it something that you'd advise for any kind of practice out there, or when should one, I think, go down that road? And do you need to have certain traits and characters, characteristics before you venture down that? Because I know of a lot of financial planners, and often I think what they do, and which I quite like about what you're saying, is that you built this, but it's proprietary. It's only for your use. You're not selling it to anybody else. Whereas there's so many financial planners going out, building a system for themselves, and it's so awesome for them that they then want to sell it to others. So what is your philosophy around that?
We've actually internally had various kind of conversations in making the software available to other advisors as well. So maybe first to answer your question, whether I would recommend other people going on this journey. As I said, I think I did mention right in the beginning, but it was almost a fluke that we went on this journey. Unfortunately, software development is hell of expensive. So you need to be brutally honest with yourself that it's going to be a big CapEx investment from your side. You can't dabble. And even though there are kind of shortcuts evolving in the industry in terms of how to develop software, you need to be realistic that you need to know you're in for a big ticket item. off the bat. It's not going to be a cheap exercise. The second thing is, as I said, we've been developing this for 10 years. So not just is it going to be costly, but it's going to be in terms of a lengthy time commitment from your side to develop it as well. So if you want to go on the journey, good luck. Just know what you're in for, because the worst thing that you want to do is kind of go halfway through the process and then want to pull the plug on it. We obviously see big corporates with a lot of budgets being able to throw around hundreds of millions of rands to develop a software only to pull the plug when the key project leader leaves the company to go work at a rival company. When you're a small or medium-sized business, you don't have that luxury. So just be very careful have a robust internal discussions before going on that journey. As I said, internally we have been kind of playing around with the idea of potentially opening it up to other advisors. Again, we're not kind of keen on that just yet, but it might change in the future. I think the big thing, and again, this is why I'm so kind of passionate, not just on Babylon that we develop for Financial Emporium, but also for Wealthpro. The fact that I'm in the industry, the fact that I work with clients on a daily basis, I think I have a very good insight in terms of how the solution should work. Where again, sometimes what we see is specifically out of the big product providers, they produce a software solution, but it's 9 out of 10 times it's developed by an actuary that sits inside the business that never deals or sits in front of a client. Or a software development team that's situated in India or Australia that doesn't know the South African landscape and the demographics. And so I honestly believe that I'm in the ideal position in terms of to develop that software, and hence why it's working quite well for us.
Oh, nice. And I will get into Wealthpro now in a second. Is there any commercially available software that you do use as part of your solution?
Yeah, very much so. So again, we'll kind of pivot to Wealthpro in a bit. So Wealthpro is the software that I've developed that is available to other financial advisors. So obviously we integrate with Wealthpro. We still also use Asset Map as well. So Asset Map, that one page kind of very graphical representation of a client's kind of life is very powerful. Clients just kind of relate quite well with it, specifically for clients that have a lot of stuff, if I can put it that way. So a lot of business interests, a lot of complex kind of planning that happens, and being able to distill that to a central kind of one pager is very powerful. The other software provider, Astute, that we still use to a certain part with regard to the data aggregation. Unfortunately, Astute is very much tied into the legacy long-term insurance providers. So to have a consolidated or data aggregator in the long-term insurance space is important. And then there's minimal kind of off-the-shelf kind of products that you use sometimes for something specifically. So whether it's advanced cash flow analysis or those kind of things, there's other certain product providers that we use. But the bigger ones are our internal system, Asset Map, and then also Astute.
All right, awesome. And your from a revenue management?
And ComSpace as well. Obviously, I think it's if you don't use ComSpace, you're not even in the game. Sorry. No credit to Jan and the team.
So that's to manage revenue and understand revenue and all of that.
Yeah. So I literally, it went live, if memory serves correct, yesterday or the day before that. So in our proprietary system, Babylon, that we've developed, there's a new module that I just went live. It's our metric section where we track a lot of metrics in the business. So it's more kind of on the business analysis, business intelligence side. So I'm very excited in terms of that. So that's where we're going to accurately track in terms of turnaround time, various metrics in terms of are we moving in the right direction. And the reason why I want to track those metrics and disclose that to everybody in the business is that so that everybody can see, although they're a small cog in a bigger machine, they can see the impact and the change that they bring to the business. So we've got a lot of data, and now I'm just going to distill that and kind of overlap a bit of BI on top of that to kind of show nice graphs in terms of are we moving in the right direction. Because again, there's various metrics, and sometimes we don't always stop and ask the question, are we on the right track? We just have like a gut feeling, yeah, business is good, no, business is not doing well. But it's just more gut feeling. There's no kind of actual information to back it up. And I think we're moving into a direction where data is going to be the new oil of the future. So the more data you have, the better you're able to kind of analyze and review and make adjustments and just adapt and change for the very fast changing environment we're operating in.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, Gustav, let's talk a little bit about Wealthpro. What is Wealthpro?
So Wealthpro is a white label goal-based investment platform available to IFAs. So again, the starting point when we started Wealthpro back 6 odd years ago, this was to kind of piggyback on this kind of big expansion we saw on the fintech side, where initially the idea was that clients would go direct. So it's a B2C or business to end client kind of value proposition. We tested it in the South African market and it failed dismally. Clients still need that kind of their financial advisor to hold their hand and to assist them in making a decision with regards to what investment goals they're trying to achieve. So what we've done is now we've pivoted and we've changed it now to a white label solution that's available to financial advisors. In a nutshell, the financial advisor and the client will sit and create various investment goals. And then after a discussion in terms of what type of goals there are, the client will then self-execute the investment. In the back end, the advisor will plug in their specific kind of model solutions, DFM if they use it, their own internal funds, or any kind of bespoke kind of solution that they have. And it will kick out the kind of the investment in the back end. So a big drive that we have at the moment is that we're pushing quite hard to have API integrations with the big platform providers. So at the moment, all the new investments are placed on the Allan Gray investment platform, but we're in discussions with a range of other platform providers, 91, Signia, and we'll continue on that list to also have an integration with them, which means that in theory that the client will go to Wealthpro, press buttons, and you as the advisor will then decide whether the investment is placed on which platform and what portfolios will be plugged into that. So in short, the reason why we're doing that, we're just trying to piggyback on technology to try and alleviate some of the admin burden that we have at the moment. So at the moment, I think email is still the predominant method in terms of how information is communicated between the three parties. So it's the client, the advisor, and the product provider. And we just have PDFs that we're emailing up and down this channel. And again, what we're trying to do with Wealthpro is to automate a lot of those communication channels. So the client presses certain buttons and the PDF is pre-populated and already completed. The data that comes from the product provider back comes in via data feed, so you don't have to log in somewhere to get the data. The data is already there. So data aggregation as an example. When a client kind of presses certain buttons on the it is a desktop version, but also a mobile application. If the client presses certain buttons on his phone, something happens in the background and we can send a servicing request directly to the platform. So we're using technology to kind of to tear down the walls, to simplify things. And as I said, the bigger focus, the vision that I have is that financial advisors, and it's very much what Louis mentioned now, our role is changing in the environment. It's more asking the soft questions. It's more about the relationships. It's more understanding the client's needs and the requirements and wants better. And it's less about admin and it's less about completing documents and getting clients to sign documents and emailing up and down this channel. Yes, we might have a support staff at the moment that does most of that heavy lifting, but by using technology, we can make those small improvements. And the goal is obviously for the advisors to open up their diaries so that they can build stronger relationships with their current clients and obviously develop and foster new relationships with clients. So Wealthpro in a nutshell kind of incorporates all of those kind of aspects. One thing that I just specifically also wanted to mention, which is you mentioned it also earlier on in your video that you spoke about technology and all the elements in terms of or that you need to incorporate into a system. It's got to do with data. So at the moment, if you look at most of the product, or almost all of the product providers, whether your investment client has got 10,000 Rand in his investment or 10 million Rand in his investment, whether the client is 80 years old or 20 years old, whether the client has a risk profile that's very aggressive or super conservative, whether the client maybe has a behavioral kind of bias towards kind of overreacting when the market kind of changes in the short term. All of those kind of attributes makes clients very unique. However, the product providers, the statement that's sent out to the client is always the same. Most of them are kind of digital at the moment, so most of the clients get an email statement, and that quarterly statement looks exactly the same, even though the clients are vastly different. So in Wealthpro, the fact that we have all of those data, so risk profile, behavioral biases, the clients, the generation, the age, the risk profile, the amount of investments, etc. What we're trying to do within Wealthpro is we're going to focus on hyper customization. So it means that in terms of that communication channel, the frequency, does the client want a quarterly statement, daily, weekly, only once per year? Does he want it via email, in the post, via WhatsApp? What channel does he want it? The fact that we have all of that data in Wealthpro makes it that the communication channel that we're going to use and how we engage with the client going forward, we can hyper customize. So I'm very excited in terms of expanding on that, because I honestly believe that we are all very unique creatures and we need to be treated differently. And again, if you have the data and you have the technology to drive that, the communication part of your system can be kind of ramped up quite a lot. And that's kind of some of the things that we're busy playing around with in the Wealthpro space.
And it makes so much sense, because one of the things that you need to know is, like, how does the client want to be communicated with? And it's great to ask that question and to have that information, but to actually deliver and execute on that, I think, is the challenge. So this is amazing. And that hyper customization. And the other thing that I feel very strongly about is that if there's one email, one message, one whatever that a client is going to open, it's going to be the investment statement. So that opens up so many other opportunities. And the fact that one sends it when you said you were going to send it, the fact that you do it consistently builds so much trust and credibility as well over the long term. And I've seen this in practice. So being able to, as you mentioned, hyper customize this is just going to take it to the next level. So really excited to see what that looks like. Quickly, one question before I get to crypto, because like we're nearing the end now. So one of your aims, and something that you profess quite heavily, is that you seek to improve the business only by 1%. But the trick here is not just by 1%, it's about 1% across different or all facets of the business. So what does that mean for you in practice?
Yeah, well, it is exactly that. It's that you need to have and embrace a mindset where you're continually trying to improve across a range of facets. So again, it ties back into that what I mentioned earlier with regards to the metrics that we're tracking within Financial Emporium. There's a wide range of areas that we're tracking, from productivity, cost base, marketing, the client experience, reporting, communication. So it's important to have a good understanding in terms of how you're operating, and it's also very important that you ask feedback from clients. I think that's also something that a lot of advisors get wrong. They just assume, oh, the client wants this, oh, the client wants that. That's not true. You need to understand and ask the client on a regular basis with regards to feedback. So again, as I said, there's various facets in your business, and all that you need to do is you need to kind of be able to clearly define all of those facets, break it down into smaller subsets, and then just jump into one and look at what the process is at the moment and ask around and brainstorm in terms of how you can improve 1% on that specific process. So whether it's doing it cheaper, faster, better, more efficient, more in line with the client's needs or requirements, whatever it is, but just being hyper aware of continually improving across a wide range of assets. You can't just track assets under management. That's not a true reflection. It might just be market performance, but you might be bleeding clients on the back end. So there's a range of facets, and it's got to do with understanding your business better and then being able to track it and then monitor it to see, are you getting that 1% improvement?
Yeah, awesome. Right, so let's get into this topic of crypto, which could be an episode or 3 episodes on its own at least. But Gustav, quite interesting to get your take on crypto, and why did you decide as a business to start focusing on educating yourself and to be able to talk to clients about crypto?
Yeah, so my journey started personally back in 2017. Obviously, again, as I said, remember, I eat, sleep, and breathe investments. So obviously, by hook or crook, started to hear about this thing about crypto, got exposure to it, started to dabble around with that on my own, and I quickly kind of saw the value and the benefit thereof. Subsequently, the market is still kind of very volatile. So you have this bear and bull kind of phases in the market. In a bear phase, it kind of fades out into the background, and during a bull phase, where the numbers just goes up, there's a lot more attention to it. The reality is that it is in excess of a $2 trillion kind of market, and that number is not going to go down substantially. Just over the last month, we had a range of announcements. So firstly, it was Goldman Sachs, one of the big US banks, said that they completed the first crypto transaction. And secondly, we have Bridgewater and Associates, Ray Dalio, the biggest hedge fund in the world, saying that they've got exposure. Ray Dalio mentioned that he's got Bitcoin exposure in his personal capacity. And then lastly, BlackRock, which has, I think, also about a $2 trillion assets under management, said that they're starting to employ people, a VP in the crypto space. The reality is coming, and it's coming fast. We know that obviously Investec Bank has been working quite hard in the background, and I've got it on the good authority that the Standard Bank Group is also playing around in the space. You can't ignore it anymore. So instead of waiting and then being late, I decided to be early. My entire life, I've been an early adopter across everything. I got the iPad, and I've got my VR goggles here in the background as well. I just like dabbling around and playing with stuff. And the reality is that I remember when I started investments back in the early 2000s, we had 3 asset classes. It was equity, bonds, cash that was listed in our textbooks. Property only came out after kind of REITs started to became much more popular. I firmly believe that in 4 years, we'll have 5 asset classes: equity, property, crypto, bonds, and cash, and you'll combine and build the portfolio in that kind of space. Yeah, so that's kind of the long and the short. As I said, I'm quite passionate about crypto. I think it's going to be a game changer. Obviously, it comes with a big risk for us as a financial advisor, because crypto by nature is decentralized. So you don't deal with the middleman. You don't go through. It's a DIY kind of approach. So we as financial advisors need to be very clever in terms of how do we position ourselves and not get kind of isolated in the process. And that's where in the Wealthpro space as well, we've partnered with Revix. So advisors will be able to kind of assist their clients and get crypto exposure, but still be involved in the process. So yeah, we're definitely ahead of the curve there.
Yeah, and that's so important, because you would rather be, I guess it's a point of, because I was speaking to some people on Monday, and I was saying, like, you would rather be ready, or you have to be ready when the opportunity presents itself. I don't think the opportunity wants to come and then you go like, oh, hell, what do I need? And then start scrambling, because then it's almost too late. And if the opportunity never comes, if this is, because a lot of people are feeling like crypto is a fad, like we all said about the internet back in the 90s, right? And just look what happened. And I think this new evolvement, I think it's about so much more than, Bitcoin, that's a store of value. It's this, it's that. You look at what Ethereum is doing, and it's about the utility and how this is going to influence our day-to-day lives in the future. It's not simply just about being able to buy something with it or to invest into it. It's about so much more that's coming. And it's, I guess, my question then becomes is like, do we really understand what that is? And the other interesting phenomenon around anything in life, because I think I haven't learned so much about how money works than when I started sort of studying up on Bitcoin specifically. I thought I knew, because I had economics 101, and I realized that I don't even understand why we have inflation. Now I understand, but all of these things are so important. I think just from an education point of view, this is going to be extremely valuable in the bigger scheme of things as well. It's not only about about the crypto stuff and what is arbitration and, buy and sell and speculate and, whatever. It's not even about that. This is about, do you have an understanding of the core fundamentals of the technology that underlies this? And the very interesting phenomenon for me, and this is the psychology of people, is that if somebody decides something has value, it has value. It's almost like, for me, I would gladly spend money on any of these. Let me just make the screen a bit bigger, or maybe do this. If you look at any of these things here at the back, I would spend money on those things because they're valuable to me. It means something to me. Another person would never in their life spend any kind of money buying little puppets and to put it on their shelf. It's like when you decide something has value, and it seems like in the crypto space that a lot of people are thinking that there's value, and there's more and more people that sort of see that as they learn more about it. And I think the danger in this is where we have people that are listening to their butchers and their hairdressers and so forth because they made some money in crypto. I think so for us as a financial planning profession, it's our duty to upskill ourselves on this. I think it's critically important. Gustav,
I agree, 100%.
Anything you want to add?
No, as I said, I think it boils back to education. I always, as my role as a financial advisor, I don't sell. I educate clients. So I tell them, I educate the client, and then the client has all the requirements and needs. Sorry, not all the requirements, all the information at hand to then make a informed decision. So I think there's a responsibility on us as a financial planner to kind of educate ourselves. And that if you're thinking that it's a fade and it's going to pass, unfortunately, that's not the case. There's just so much momentum and so much money behind it. It's not going to. So, just sharpen your tool. The other day, I kind of read a tweet that somebody said that literally just 10 minutes a day. So just spend 10 minutes a day just educating yourself, just kind of understanding the technology, how it works, and why it's going to be a game changer, because it is going to be a game changer.
Great stuff. Gustav, thank you so much. Guys, if you want to get in or learn more about Wealthpro, you can go to the website, wealthpro.co.za, or also financialemporium.co.za. I've got the links down in the description on the YouTube channel as well, so where you can find it easily. Gustav, just from the whole Propulsion Live community, the Propulsion community, thank you very much for your time and your phenomenal insights. I would really like to chat to you a bit more, but again, now I'm out of time, but we will make some time later on. But thank you very much for everything. I really appreciate it, and we wish you all the best of luck with everything that you're busy with.
Yeah, thank you very much, and good luck for all your endeavors as well.
Thank you very much. Cheers. Alrighty, so that's it for this week's episode. Thank you very much for being here. We'll be back next week, same time, same place, with another phenomenal guest. Next week, we have Jeffrey, and Jeffrey is from LifeDocs, and we are going to look at how you can take away the pain, from an administration point of view when somebody passes away. And it's really going to be an interesting episode again. So thank you very much. Hope you have a fantastic weekend. And remember, if you haven't subscribed yet, please consider subscribing. We really appreciate it. We did reach our 1,000 subscriber mark, so thank you very much. And we continue to build. We've got some great aspirations for this channel. But thank you very much. Have a fantastic weekend. Stay safe, be blessed, and prosper. Raise the bar. Remember, always raise the bar. Cheers. Bye-bye.